Hello friends, welcome to a new video. In this video, I wish to take your attention to a tribal hero from Northeast. His name is Matmur Jamoh. The reason why I wish to take your attention to him is because he has been included as part of unsung heroes in Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. And also we do have our head of the state from a tribal community, the Santalis community, that's President Draupadi Murmu. So the reason why I wish to take your attention to him is because first of all he is almost unknown to people in the academic circles other than maybe in the Northeast. And another thing is his fight against the British had far-reaching consequences, especially in the political history of northeastern India. So first and foremost, I'll tell you about this person. See, he has come into prominence from at a time from 1908 to 1911. Because during that time, the area that's the present day Arunachal Pradesh was called the NEFA, Northeastern Frontier Agency. And those agencies were technically not fully controlled by the British administration because that agency, that area lied between the outer line and the inner line. So first of all, I will let you know about these terminologies, the outer line and the inner line. Because from 1873 onwards, the Britishers had something known as the Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulation Act, which actually required, that's even present today also, so which actually required a kind of a permit for actually the people in the British areas to actually go and visit these tribal areas. But the tribals themselves did not have any restrictions. They could actually come down occasionally during when there were the tribal fairs and festivals were there, but people from the outsiders were not allowed to go inside. So this was kept as such because the hilly tribes had a geographical advantage. They can come down and attack the areas or the loot these areas which were having much of economic significance. So such a kind of a system was even present during the time of the Ahom kings who used to rule these areas earlier. So Britishers adopted this system. During the time of Ahom kings, this system was known as the Posa system. Posa literally meant the settlement. So the Britishers adopted this system from them and it was made into an act from 1873 onwards. So that is the Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulation Act. It was introduced in the Viceroy's Executive Council by it's known as the Regulation 1, Bengal Eastern Frontier Regulation. And it was introduced in the Viceroy's Executive Council by a person known as Sir Arthur Hobhouse. So this is the background of the political scenario in the northeastern region. So in the earlier parts of the 20th century, the Chinese imperial expansion was a kind of a threat in these areas. And the assistant political officer at that time, Noel Williamson, actually ventured into these tribal areas. That is a time when the tribals had a problem with him. Okay, so the Adi tribes, that's their present name now. At that time, they were known as the Abhors because they were residing in areas of the Abhor Hills, that is the Sadia region of Arunachal Pradesh. So during that time in 1908, according to the Adi sources, Williamson had actually called him some names and insulted this person, Matmur Jamoh, who was the leader of the Adis. Adis had a decision-making body known as the Kabang, Adi Kabang. So every tribe, just like any other tribal group, they had also their decision-making bodies. That is when they decided to actually murder Noel Williamson, and they got an opportunity in March 31st, 1911. That is when Noel Williamson and his coolies were killed there. And not only Noel Williamson, on the previous day, that's on March 30th, 1911, his Dr. Gregerson was also assassinated. And subsequently, Britishers took revenge on the Adis. There was an Anglo-Adi war. Obviously, Adis were not a match for the mighty British. They were defeated. This person, Matmur Jamoh, was caught. He was trialed by the military court in April. And he was subsequently sentenced to the cellular prison in Andaman and Nicobar jails. And we do not have any records for his death, but he died there. So this is an unsung tribal hero, and we cannot call him a freedom fighter as per se, because he was not actually fighting for India's freedom or India's independence, because a country, India, and all those things were outside his reach. But he was literally fighting for his dignity and the dignity of his tribal land. So that is about this person, Matmur Jamoh. So now I am going to tell you its significance of what happened afterwards. Because if you look into 1911 to 1914, that is a time beyond the borders also there were a few changes happening. because the imperial China had actually crumbled by 1911, and there was this Chinese revolution that happened, and that resulted in the coming up of a kind of a democracy there with Kuomintang government. Kuomintang government under Dr. Sun Yat-sen. So they were fighting for democracy, land reforms, and all those kind of things. But for India's perspective, during that time in Tibet, there was a kind of an autonomy, because from 1911 to 1914, India, obviously at that time it was represented by the British, actually made sure that those regions of Arunachal Pradesh come under the Indian border, because the Chinese envoy in 1914, they literally walked away from that, and India was able to convince the Tibetan envoy in such a way that the present day Arunachal Pradesh came into the borders of the British India. And this thing was particularly more happened because of this particular incident of Noel Williamson getting murdered. That is the reason when Britishers actually sent the expedition there, and they actually made sure that those area should be coming under the political boundary of the Indian Union. So imagine if such a situation would not have happened, if Britishers might have left that area like that, the present day Arunachal Pradesh would have been very well inside the Chinese territory. And still also you have to understand, still also China is claiming Arunachal Pradesh as part of their land. That is the reason why even the diplomats or even many of the sports persons in Arunachal Pradesh cannot officially visit China, because if they visit China, the Chinese will not give them a stapled visa. No, they will not give them a visa on their passport, but instead what the Chinese government does is they give them a stapled visa. That means within the passport a separate paper attached as a visa. Obviously the Indian government will not allow it. So this situation is still continuing now. But why I wanted to tell these things is because of this particular person, the Matmur Jamoh. His contributions are even far-fetched in some other ways, because Britishers took interest in those regions and they made sure that they come under the Indian Union, and the McMahon line was the outside line of the Arunachal Pradesh region. So this is the importance of, although a very small tribal leader, but his contributions in the present day Indian political scenario. So if you want to know about more and more tribal leaders and their contributions, please say that in the comments. Please do subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed, and please click the bell icon so that you don't miss any notifications. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Jai Hind.